communities in many ways are failing us around helping us transition to a more sustainable future. And they are not consulting with citizens in the way that they used to. They've become very lazy with that. And they are listening, as far as we're concerned, way too much to big business.
Currently, we are in a South Africa of a desperate people. You know, people who take anything that government brings.
The government has recently announced that it plans to spend approximately 1 trillion rand on nuclear power orders. There will be very little or no money left for any other sources of power. So all the renewable energy projects that we're thinking of are likely to not go ahead.
Today we had an energy caucus, which is a meeting of community members, labour, various different people doing research in the field of renewable energy throughout South Africa that have come to attend.
Many communities on the ground don't understand the governance of energy and don't understand how they can make a difference in terms of changing policy.
Key issues are being discussed, but those key issues are not being understood by many.
So part of this program's motivation is to bring those communities to Parliament so that there can be an interaction where instead of NGOs putting the points on behalf of communities, community members can actually engage directly with members of Parliament.
The Energy Caucus has been around for a while. It has definitely been very instrumental in terms of forcing changes in the original IRP, which is the government's 20-year energy plan. And I think that we need to really strengthen the voices of civil society, and the Energy Caucus as a structure is important in terms of doing that.
I'm a chairperson of Ekurhuleni environmental organization, which is community-based. Issue of renewable energy vis-a-vis nuclear, it's played on uneven ground. Nuclear is very preferred, and we feel that nuclear is very expensive and won't create any job. Why have I come to the Energy Caucus? We know and we have realized that there are a lot of secrets around issues, you know, of energy, nuclear, and the renewables. But I think the level of the discussion is questionable, you know, because I think it's at a responsive level. It's responding to what government and private sector is saying. The fact that people are not questioning what the leaders are doing or holding them to account, you know, is at the center of decision making in the country.
What we're seeing in South Africa right now is that there is a bidding process, and that the private sector is lining up, and that government is doing very little about investing state resources in renewables. What they're doing is they're simply handing over renewables and putting it in the hands of the private sector. And this is very dangerous because renewables, while it's good for the environment, but once it's commodified, it just becomes another source of our own exploitation.
They burn their fingers with the pebble bed stuff. So now, look, we don't want to burn our fingers here. Let's just give renewables to the private sector.
I'm one of the youngest activists in the environmental issues. I'm trying to address the issues of climate change, adaptation to ordinary citizens who are suffering the impacts of climate change. Everyone is seeing what is happening, but they don't understand.
We are capacitating people on climate change, and we are faced with the problem of trying to translate science to English, that is science of climate change.
This Energy Caucus is really the ideal place for different community-based organizations to talk to each other and find out what we have in common and to find out where our interests intersect. So we are building partnerships with, for example, the Right to Know campaign and also other NGOs that are trying to promote renewable energy. And the reason for that is a state with nuclear power by necessity requires secrecy, and that's where the link to the Right to Know campaign comes in.
The Electricity Governance Initiative is a collective of NGOs who all work in different ways on issues related to energy.
We're essentially a complementary set of organizations that work differently with different role players, and we found that there's a great deal of synergy to be gained by working together with each other.
We decided last year to pool our resources in order to draw public attention to issues around the integrated resource plan in particular. And we found that it was quite a successful initiative because we were able to share our research with one another, and we were able to build on what each of us was able to do so that we didn't all have to do different pieces of work.
IDASA is interested in this project because we've worked for a long time with parliamentarians, and the aim of this project is to bring a network of new organizations and community workers into contact with parliamentarians in the hope that their experiences, their real life experiences of their work on energy and climate issues will add to parliamentarians' understanding of the challenges that face South Africa.
Today's event is a preparation for them to be able to meet with parliamentarians tonight at an informal networking event, as well as tomorrow to a roundtable where there will be discussions about energy issues, how it's affecting local communities, and how South Africa can transition to a green, low-carbon economy.
What we found as Earthlife Africa Johannesburg, that there was a gap. People were not aware of the policy making processes, that they have the power to influence policy, they have the right to make inputs into policy making processes.
We have, throughout this year and even prior to this, been running workshops with different communities, holding different events to be able to raise more awareness, so that community members can get a better sense of what's happening and engage more in a more informed way.
One of the forums that Earthlife Africa facilitates, which central to, it's the Women, Energy and Climate Change Forum. This forum is coming together of women from different community-based organizations. Women have been central in the struggles around the high price of electricity in their communities. They wanted to know what is happening. So we undertook it upon ourselves to capacitate Black, poor women to be able to make inputs into all the policy-making processes.
I think government is happy that the level of questioning of society is that of around RDP housing. And so people would only question as to where is my own RDP house, where is my water, where is the electricity, you know, so meaning that democracy has been reduced to those things and nothing more.
The jobs should be in renewable energy, in public transport, in sustainable agriculture, in retrofitting our buildings, making them energy efficient and so on.
People are going to be more open to alternatives. But more importantly, they're going to be inspired into taking up struggle.
Resistance is the art of the possible. Revolution is the art of making the impossible possible.
Prior to this, we had other engagements like the Youth Forum, which Project 90 hosted in August, and had a process of engagement there around a vision for a sustainable future.
We are going around in townships, educating people, more especially youth and women, about climate change and the issues that affect us as youth. We are facing a serious crisis. So I'm saying amandla to youth of South Africa, amandla to abahlali basemzansi. Power to the people. Sithi phansi ngama-capitalist phansi.
This conversation is going to be a little bit different from the caucus that some of you may have been at yesterday, and we want to have a constructive engagement where we look at things that are working. The idea is if we ask positive questions about things that aren't working, we highlight those, we find that the system, in this case it's the energy system, will tend to move in the direction of those positive questions. And also, this is really about you and what you can contribute to the process. We want to see, like, what capacity do I have to influence the system? So we're really committed that that everyone who leaves today leaves with a renewed sense of what's possible.
Yeah, it was very exciting and very uniting in terms of belaboring on different issues, especially as we have parliamentary members next to us. So that it was very broad in terms of the way we have constructed our answers according to the questions.
If we can just take a minute just to think about some wishes that you might have for the energy system.
The government needs to consult first before making decisions and implementing the nuclear power system.
Okay, my wish is for a champion for renewable energy in government.
Renewable energy having a stake of 80% in supplying, distributing and generating, mostly owned locally by SMEs and communities themselves.
My wish is that the energy system in the country should be pro-poor with a right-based approach, and it should be affordable, safe and clean.
Renewable energy, which is decentralized so that people can afford it.
Sure, that was amazingly clear, and there's so much passion and so much drive for very similar things. It's quite astounding. The next question is, how do we get there?
So after this, which is just obviously an initial process, we are anticipating that some of these community members will build a relationship with members of parliament and start linking up so that they are feeding information backwards and forwards. And in that way, we are strengthening the capacity of South African civil society to engage with decision makers, rather than it becoming those only with powerful vested interests who have access to how policy is made in the country.